My sons and my daughters, to you I plead. Watch, don't get no horrors, but please take heed. I know you don't want no sermon, but my admonition is to guard you against all the evils of life that create strife and destroy life. Walk cautiously, children, be alert, because you have an enemy that's roaming the earth. I know you're young and restless, but you don't have to be jealous. You see, sober thinking leads on to righteousness, to happiness, spiritual bliss. That's why I tell you this. Watch out, my children. Watch out, my children. It have a fella called Lucifer with a bag of white powder. And he don't want to powder your face, but to bring shame and disgrace to the human race. We're going to sing it again. Watch out, my children. Watch out, my children. You have a fella called Lucifer with a bag of white powder, and he don't want to powder your face, but to bring shame and disgrace to the human race. Oh, I give you my counsel because I want to see all you young people live righteously. What you feed your mind with forms your characteristics and shape the path that you must walk tomorrow. Darkness or glow, joy or sorrow. That's why I'm concerned. So watch out, my children. Watch out, my children. Have a fella called Lucifer with a bag of white powder, and he don't want to powder your face, but to bring shame and disgrace to the human race. Now we sing it again. Watch out, my children. Watch out, my children. It have a fella called Lucifer with a bag of white powder, and he don't want powder your face, but to bring shame and disgrace to the human race. Oh, you are young, and your future is ahead of you. Right or wrong, sweet or sour, depends on what you do. Taking the wrong direction will drain your constitution and promote mental chaos and confusion. Then corruption will be in a man, and that is not God's plan. So watch out, my children. Oh, watch out, my children. It have a fella called Lucifer with a bag of white powder, and he don't want to powder your face, but to bring shame and disgrace. Let me talk to my children in Germany. Pass auf, meine Kinder. Pass auf, meine Kinder. Da ist jemand, der heißt Lucifer. Hat eine Tutor mit weißem Puder. Aber wählt dann die Sieg für den. Den blinken Menschen. No Christus. And to my Spanish-speaking children. Cuidado, mis hijos. Cuidado, mis hijos. Hay un hombre que se llama Lucifer con una bolsa de polvo blanco. Y él no quiere envolver tu cara, pero para traer pena y desgracia para la raza humana. How about my friends speaking children? Attention, mes enfants. Attention, mes enfants. Il y a quelqu'un appelé Lucifer pas avec un sachet de poudre blanche. Et il ne faut pas se poudrer le visage, mais apporter un détresse à la souvent to my chubby children. Eko mere bachalo, eko mere bachalo, ekinsan, shayna, shayna, oh, this love of God and the hill garden, when she talk and Marie, but ma,
muted. Oh, yes, good evening to you and welcome to today's edition of. I think we are getting some feedback here. We are going to fix that now. We are going to fix that now. Let's see here. Let's see here. Let's see here. I think we've corrected it now. Good evening. Good evening again. And welcome to Politics 101 on a Friday evening. We're expecting Dr. Adams to join us. He's having a little bit of technical difficulty. I hope we're able to sort that out shortly. Um, uh, I hope we're able to sort it out. Let's see here. Dr. Adams, are you here with us? Are you hearing us, Dr. Adams? Um, he is sorting that out. But good evening. Good evening. Dr. Adams is working things out there. Welcome to Politics 101 on a Friday evening, coming to you from Guyana. It's rainy today, so it's a cold evening, but it's May June, so it's traditional for us to have some rain, although these days you can't predict the weather wherever in the world. You're not able to predict the weather, um, global warming, and all of that. Please share the link and let everybody know that everybody knows that we are on this evening, on a Friday evening. And welcome to all of you coming to you with the news, not unexpected. Um, um, that the police, the police have said that there is not enough evidence to charge former Minister Dharam Lal with any offense. So they said that they have been advised. No doubt, we're not sure where the statement that I saw did not mention the DPP, but they said they've got legal advice that there is not enough evidence to charge the former minister with any offense. I said not unexpected because I think this time around, given what happened the last time, I don't think that many people held out much hope that the police were going to charge the minister with any offense, the former minister with any offense. Um, it's um, it's sad because the regular citizen, the normal citizen, um, would be would be um, would be charged. Would be would presume guilty until found innocent. Um, would be presumed guilty until found innocent. Um, Not so when you are rich and powerful. Um, you're presumed innocent until found guilty, which is how it should always be. But if it were you and me and ordinary, regular citizens, we would be presumed guilty, especially when it comes to something like an accusation of rape. Um, all over the world, police don't play when it comes to rape these days. They they often assume um, that one is guilty until found innocent. But here we are. Here we are. Here we are. Um, uh, oh boy. Oh boy. It's Guyana. And it's Guyana under the PPP. It's Guyana under the PPP where justice is not something that is equally dispensed. Um, and so, therefore, we are in this situation. Um, we are in this situation. Good evening again to all of you who are just joining us on this Friday evening, whether you are joining us from Guyana or outside of Guyana. Welcome to Politics 101. Those of you who are joining us from very far afield in Europe. It's almost morning there. And so it's a late good night, early good morning to you. Those of you from the wider Caribbean, those of you who are on the East Coast of North America, Canada, the United States of America, good evening. And those of you on the West Coast of the United States, good afternoon. Good afternoon to all my friends who are joining us from California and Arizona. Some of you are joining us from the Mid East, there I go, the Mid East, Middle America, Chicago, Illinois, and those places. Some of you, good evening, because it's still evening. Those of you are joining us from Texas, and of course from down south, South Carolina. Those of you who are in Georgia, especially Atlanta area, Florida, welcome to Politics 101. We come with the news that the police have said that there is not enough evidence to bring a charge against former Minister Dharam Lal. As you remember, a second young lady had accused the minister of inappropriate behavior, of raping her, and the police had to be drawn out of their crease, and eventually they did, and now they're saying that they've been advised, they've been given legal advice that the minister, there's not enough evidence. They said that um, yeah, among other things, they said that they got alibis, that the minister was at another place, at the time when the young lady said that he was raping her. That the house that she said the rape took place, the minister did not have access to the house and so forth. It seems to me that the police conducted not an investigation, they conducted a trial. And I'm wondering whether the police, and I'm saying that facetiously, of course, the place for a trial is in the court. The police are supposed to do the investigation and let the matter go to court and let the court decide whether the minister or the accused had alibis and whether the alibi was credible or not. From all my years of following court matters, those are the things you hear in the court. You know, the defense would make their case that, look, the accused was not in the place at the time when they said the offense occurred. As I said, that matter should, it is the court that determined that. But it seems that the police have conducted a trial. Or as the police is saying, they got legal advice. If it is from the DPP, I don't know. If it's a DPP, then the DPP give a trial. The function of the DPP or the police is not to try a matter. is not to try a matter. Matters are tried in the courts. But as I said, I am sure that many of you are not surprised at this outcome, because the first accusation was very compelling, certainly from those of us who are laymen and women, and yet the police did not file charges, and so there was not much hope. And as I was remarking on a program earlier today, I was on that in many regards we are seeing our court system on trial. On the one hand, we had the refreshing, very refreshing rulings from Justice Kissoon in the matter of insurance in the oil sector and on the matter of the teachers. And the court in those matters came out shining, shining bright, restoring, if you will, the independence and the dignity of the court. And so therefore, when you have that, and then you see what is coming out from the police here, they did not even give the matter a chance to go to court. And so the whole legal system, the police system, the justice system is really in question in Guyana. We have a lot of work to do in restoring the dignity of our country. We are going to observe 58 years of independence on Sunday, I think. Almost 3 decades of independence. And one would think that there are certain things we would have gotten right, regardless of our political problems. As I said earlier today, I remember as a child, being taken by my auntie and them to LBI because the Duke, I think it was the Duke of Edinburgh, but the husband of the Queen, he had come in 1966 at independence, and you travel by train up to LBI, and they took us, my auntie and them, and they took us to LBI. And I remember her saying to us that because I think my sister might have asked why we come here to see this white man, and she said, well, we come here to see this white man because this is the last time we've seen this white man. They're not coming back anymore. We are now a free country. We've become independent. And we didn't know, because we were children, didn't know the weight of what she was saying, but we sensed that something important was happening. Something important was happening, that we had gotten independence. We were now, quote unquote, free. And that must have meant something, because after 250 years of enslavement, or not 150 years of colonialism, including indentureship. And so it's been 400 years. After 400 years, and you are now free, whether it's just a flag, or whether it's just a national anthem, or a new constitution, whatever you got, you take it because you want to get out of there. And so independence obviously meant something tremendously important in 1966. And the question we're asking today, 58 years later, is that independence as precious as it was back then? Is that independence as precious as it was back then? And when on the eve of the 58th anniversary of independence, we get this news that a big boy was accused twice of a very serious offense, and one senses that the justice system, the police system, has not worked in a fair way. One senses that. one then asks the question, what does independence mean in 2024? Yes, the white man has gone, as my auntie said, he's not coming back. I suppose if she were alive today and to see the coming of oil and the coming back of white people in a very serious way, she would question that. She would question that. She would ask herself whether the prediction in 1966 was indeed true. Of course, she had no idea then that oil would come to Guyana 50 odd years later and we would see the return of white people. I would assume that she would say, I made a mistake. I could have only gone by what was in front of me. And in any case, the white man is not now coming back politically, he's coming back now economically, and so forth. But the fact of the matter, she would also question whether, in fact, the white man leaving meant that the black and brown man who were left in charge, whether they, in fact, have done better than the white man did. If the white man was responsible for economic genocide against the colonized and the enslaved, if he was responsible for social death, if that white man was responsible for physical demolition of the lives of ordinary people, one is asking the question whether, in fact, in 2024, whether we are seeing anything differently. And the question has to be no. The question has to be that the black and brown men who have taken over have generally made a mess of independence. Now, there were glimpses. There were glimpses. There were moments of hope that our independence was working. That one of the things that when we came out of independence we were hoping for was that poverty, the poverty that we experience today, is really a hangover from the poverty of enslavement and colonialism. And so at the time of independence, my auntie and all the other aunties and mommies and daddies would have hoped that independence would have brought an end to poverty. They were seriously hoping that, because poverty was like a noose around their necks. A second thing that they would have been hoping for was that the ethnic and racial conflicts that had engulfed our nation just before independence, that at the time of independence, that independence would have meant seeing that ethnic conflict, those ethnic conflicts being solved. That was another dream of independence. The dream that we would indeed become one nation, or at least, even if we remain several nations, we would have one destiny. It was our dream of independence. The dream of poverty leaving the land. The dream of ethnic and racial unity. Even if there was not unity in terms of coming together as one, that at least there would be ethnic peace. And then a third dream of independence would have meant that the Guyanese dignity, the collective dignity of Guyanese, would be upheld at the time of independence. We walked through the gates of the plantation in 1838 with no clothes on our backs. We walked through with no land, no house, no education. But what we walked through the gates with was our dignity. And by dignity, I mean our humanity. That it was intact. that all was well with our soul. Our bodies were battered by enslavement. But all was well with our soul because we had beaten slavery. And so when I talked about walking through those gates with our dignity, that is what I meant, that all was well with our soul. And the soul matters. That is why today, up to today, we still talk about soul music, about soul food, about the soul of the nation, not when the others are talking about soul. They know nothing about soul. The dignity. And after another 150 years of colonialism, we came into independence, still holding on to that dignity. When Sidney King in 1953 said this confounded nonsense must stop, what he was doing there was standing up for the dignity of black and brown people who have been battered, who had been battered by slavery and colonialism. And he was asserting the dignity, our collective dignity, when he said this confounded nonsense must stop. This trying to plunder the dignity of our people. And so one of the dreams of independence was that dignity. And I give an example on the program I was on earlier today, that I've heard stories of Burnham sitting in his office and white people outside the door waiting to go in and see him. And he would have them waiting out there for 2 and 3 hours. And in some respects, some people may say, well, but Burnham was disrespectful. But no, he was not being disrespectful. He was asserting the dignity of the African, of the Indian, of the Amerindian by saying there was a time when we could not even enter the courtyard, much less to get into the court. And now we have independence and we are asserting our dignity that you wait your turn. And we ask ourselves after 58 years, has independence gotten rid of the scourge of poverty? Oh no. Has independence gotten rid of the scourge of racism in high places, from high places? The answer is no. Has independence upheld the dignity of the Indian, the African, the Amerindian, the Portuguese, and the Chinese? And the answer must be no. Were there moments when our dignity was held aloft? Oh yes. When some of our sisters and brothers went to South Africa during the period of apartheid, and the Burnhams of this world said, you will not come here and play cricket. The dignity of Guyanese soared. When the early post-independence government made it possible for people like me, looking like me, speaking like me, to get an education, where my parents didn't have to go into their pocket, which only had pennies inside, and education cost more than pennies. But thanks to the vision of the government of that time, people looking like me, speaking like me, could get an education as a means of beating poverty. Our independence meant something. When the project of national service was generated, where young men and young women from our villages and our wards in the towns did not see a way out of the tunnel of want, of poverty, of scourge, And they were able to go to the national service and to create something, some opening for their lives. Our independence meant something. Meant something. There were moments when we were proud to be independent. There were moments when our independence meant a lot. And I don't like to compare parties. Well, the PNC had done this and the PPP had done this and so on, because first of all, I think if you don't tell me about some bridge that Burnham built and some road that Jagan and Jagdio built, that's what they're elected to do. I don't like to get into that. That is why I talk about the big and profound things. What national service was able to do to the human architecture. What free education was able to do for poor people like myself. I would not be here today had it not been for education. And so when I talk about what governments do and what governments did, that's what I talk about. I don't talk about roads and bridges. I've been to South Africa and I saw the wonderful roads and bridges under apartheid regime. They built wonderful roads and bridges, but they enslaved the hell out of black people in that country. So I don't judge them by roads and bridges. I don't judge governments. When I speak about the Granger administration, I don't speak about Granger done this bridge and that bridge. I think what Granger government did for Guyana is that it put a pause on human rights violations. The first and the only government in the history of post-colonial Guyana where human rights violations were not a willy-nilly thing. For one moment, you felt somewhat free that if you opposed the government, the police was not coming for you. Independence, therefore, meant something during that period when human rights violations were halted. Yes, there were moments when our independence meant something. But I have to say that the collective experience under the PPP government post-1992, that the proverbial dagger has been pushed into the collective independent psyche. And they've turned our independence into anti-independence. Anti-independence. All our dreams. Look at what they're doing to the teachers. It is war. This government is carrying out a war against teachers. That is anti-independence. The teachers are engaged in a struggle for bread. A struggle for bread. An industrial relations struggle. That is what the teachers are engaged in. They're asking for bread. The issue of bread has been old as humanity. The Bible talks about bread. When Jesus was confronted, what did he do? He used his power to turn one loaf into many loaves. The issue of bread is as old as humanity. Man shall not live by bread alone. My own colleague, Professor Clive Thomas, talked about bread and justice in the 1970s. The teachers are fighting for bread. And bread is at the center of human existence because bread represents the breath of life. The Anglican hymn said, "Breathe on me, breath of life." And there can be no breath of life without bread, without sustenance. And the teachers are fighting for bread. And instead of the government responding to the teachers' request for bread by saying, "Let us sit down and talk about bread," they're using the big stick of the state to beat the teachers. They're not responding to the teachers as employers. They're responding to the teachers as political rulers, political dictators. They're fighting the teachers. They're fighting the workers. They're fighting the public servants. And they're fighting them with the might of the state. That is anti-independence. I am not merely making wild accusations against a party that I don't necessarily like. That's what I saw. One of the columnists said that David Hines is a PPP hater. Whatever they say, it's their business. There's not been a government in my time. I'm a child of independence. I grew up with independence. And every government in Guyana, from the time I was a child to now, every government I have opposed. So you can call me a government hater. But no, they say I'm a PPP hater, forgetting that when the PNC was in its prime, and the PNC were making moves, economic moves to bring economic justice to poor people. But we were opposed to the authoritarianism of the PNC government. We fought them. There's not been a government that I have not stood up against because it is the right thing to do. Governments, by their very nature, are not altruistic. Governments move when we force them to move in a certain way. I'm not ashamed to have stood up to a black government. So today, when I stand up to an Indian government, I do so from the position not of race and ethnicity. I do so from a position of dignity. I could sit here tonight and speak about Burnham and his government and their attempt to deal with the issue of economic justice for poor people like myself. But I oppose the price that Burnham put on that. That is authoritarianism. That's what I oppose. And I can sit here tonight and evaluate Burnham in that way. The PPP has undone the attempts at economic justice for the poor that the Burnham governments, meaning Burnham and Hoyt and later on Granger, attempted to do right by poor people. The PPP has not even attempted to do right by poor people. They have put a dagger in our independence dreams. And so, as we come to this 58th anniversary of our independence, it must be a moment when we indict the oligarchs of the PPP for what they've spent the last 3 decades in doing, in dismantling our fragile nation, because our nation is fragile. The task of independence was to transform our society from a plantation to a nation. An enormous task. Because what a plantation meant is that you were producing everything for somebody else and nothing for yourself. You were producing cane, but you could not consume the sugar that comes from the cane because sugar was gold, and you, the slave, the enslaved, you were not golden. Independence therefore meant that we could eat, we could use the sugar that we produced. The product of our labor power. The PPP has put a dagger in our independence dream. Today, our independence means nothing. You don't fight your workers and call yourself an independent nation. Independent nations do not fight their citizens in the way the PPP is fighting the Guyanese citizens, especially the darkest among us. The darkest among us. After 58 years of independence, as if the PPP would have its way, African people would not be part of this independence experiment. I am African, very proud, proud as the tree the axeman cannot tumble, to quote from Martin Carter. Proud as the tree the axeman cannot tumble. I am a proud African, and I will let them hear that from every corner of the earth, every corner of Guyana, because they want to reduce me to slavery and serfdom again, and I refuse to allow them to do that. If you want my black face to mean coming and kiss your ring and running behind you, then I will use my black face to devalue your meaning in our society. There's a time and place for everything. There's a season for everything. I grew up with class politics. I fancied myself a Marxist-Leninist. All those working class, this and that, and I still fancy myself that. I still accept the Marxist critique of capitalism. But Marx did not deal with the question of African dignity. He did not. Marx did not deal with the question of African oppression. He did not. Marx did not deal with the question of race. He did not. And so when I look around for intellectual sustenance to defend the dignity of African, I cannot look to Marx. He who feels it, she who feels it knows it. I have to look to W.E.B. Du Bois. I have to look to Walter Rodney. I have to look to Eric Williams' Capitalism and Slavery. I have to look to Frantz Fanon, Black Skins, White Masks. I have to look to my own experience in Guyana and look at the political leaders who made attempts to ensure that the black man and black woman, the black child and their brown counterparts, the brown woman and the brown child, have a chance in this post-slavery outpost. So those who tell me, David, you must talk about class, to hell with you. You do not tell me how I must define my reality. Go to hell. You want me to watch black people starving, beaten every day. The teachers are brutalized. And you are telling me, David, talk about class? You gonna talk about class? Our independence also meant that Black people must have a chance in this society to redeem themselves after they were beaten and pummeled for over 400 years. If independence does not mean that the Black man and Black woman and Black child must have an equal chance in Guyana, then it means nothing. And those who are talking about this and that and don't want to talk about what the Black experience means in our independent Guyana, they're fooling themselves and they're fooling you. No amount of votes, no number of votes, whatever you call them, cross over, overcross, can compensate for the dignity of the teacher, for the dignity of the public servant, for the dignity of the unemployed and underemployed. The question of racial equity and racial equality has been put back on the table of independence. It's one thing to love your race. I love mine. Nobody ain't gonna tell me don't love my race. It's one thing to love your race. It's another thing to believe your race is divine, to lead and to control other races. I have never subscribed to that ideology. I love my race. But if my race does something wrong, if the leaders of my race do something wrong, I am going to let them know it's wrong. And I did that in my life. We did that. Many of us did that. But when people of other races believe that their passport to heaven is on the backs of Black people, then you've got to talk to me and people like me. I don't care if tomorrow they call me the biggest racist. I've not been the first one to be crucified like that, and I wouldn't be the last. And I'm among the least. This independence in our Guyana must also mean independence for Black people. I'm clear about that, extremely clear about that. And I want to say to Black people, to African people, do not play games with your dignity. Do not play political games with it. All this thing about when they come and giving you money, take it, and no, you know we're going to vote. I don't tell Black people to do that. When they come, ask them, is this money my money that you are giving me as the government? Or is it the party money you're bringing to me? If you bring in the party money, I want it. If you're bringing the government money through policies to me, then I am saying, thank myself. I would not thank you. I thank the sacrifices of my ancestors. I thank my own sacrifices that you are now making possible to me what belongs to me. We need a revolution in the thinking of our people. Don't tell our people to play games with oppressors. When you tell them take the money and you know where to put your vote, you're telling our people to play games with the oppressors. And when you play games with the oppressors, at the end of the day, they end up oppressing you more. Do not play games with your oppressors. I'm so glad I'm so glad. I am so glad that more and more voices are coming out and saying, Black people must stop hiding in the shadows and come out in the open space. God bless David Granger. He's not a person as a politician. I want to make this clear. I had a wonderful relationship with David Granger outside of his political role. My first book, David Granger produced it from cover to cover for me. Never asked me a question. I've had political disagreements with him. Political. And I notice he has come out over the last couple of days and said that protest is superior to silence. If we had gone on the slave plantation and tried to reason with the slaves, the enslaved people, and to tell them why they should not rise up and cause slave rebellions, they would have eaten us raw. They would have eaten us raw. You don't tell oppressed people that the one weapon that they have at their disposal is not a sharp weapon. I will ruffle some feathers, including the feathers of friends. But we've got to get it right. As I was preparing to come home, so many people were saying, David, they're going to stop you at the airport and lock you up. You go to Guyana, they're going to do you this, they're going to do you that. My family, my mother, my sisters, my brothers who have had to deal for 50 odd years with the uncomfortable knowledge that I am involved in politics, a dangerous politics in which my life could be taken anytime. And they've always found ways to support my political work. But even they, in recent times, have begun to question whether I should not hang up the gloves, and because it's getting too dangerous. And one has to listen to people who love you sometimes, and I listen. But at the end of the day, one has to be true to one's own convictions. One has to be true to one own conviction. The Calypsonian short said, nobody go run me from where we come from. Nobody will run me from where I come from. This is my home, Guyana. And when I'm in Guyana, I'm not here to smile with the enemy, to smile with those who want to wipe the smile from my face and from the collective face of our people. I will not smile with them. My smiles would be left for my own people who are suffering and who together we've got to throw the suffering off. What does independence mean to me? What does it mean to us? It means freedom. Any independence without freedom, economic freedom, political freedom, social freedom, cultural freedom, any independence without freedom is not independence. Are we economically free in Guyana? Most of us are not. Teachers are not economically free. Yesterday I went into Georgetown, my first day back, and I went there to do some quick transaction. And I should have known better that you don't go into the heart of Georgetown and do anything quickly. I didn't drive. I took a taxi, and the taxi man graciously asked if he can wait for me. I said, yes, if you, and he said, it's okay. You don't have to pay me to wait. You just pay me the fare to come and the fare to go, and I will wait for you. And I did my thing quickly, but I had to stop to talk to people because people wanted to talk to me. And people were telling me a lot of what I am saying here tonight. One young lady came up to me. She waited patiently because there was another lady from Leopold Street who was talking to me. I can't remember your name, sister, but you tell me if I can't remember the name, remember the two sisters from Leopold Street. Big up, shout out to you all. Because I know you all are on here tonight. She said, Dr. Hines, I'm on every night. I eat out of your every word. Thank you very much, sister. But another young lady waited patiently, and then she eventually came to me. She said, I'm a teacher. I'm from Golden Grove. And I heard you say that when they deny the teachers' wages, they're really denying the community that the teachers come from sustenance. And she said, it made me count. And she said, I started to count on the number of teachers that I know. Active teachers, teachers who depend on the teacher pension and what have you and so on, in Golden Grove, Nabaklis, and Haslington. And she said, I count up to 50. And she said, you know, let's say the average family is 4. That's 50 by 4, that's 200. And then I added, I said, well, you know, you get the extended family, the grandmother, the niece, the nephew, and so on. She said, yes. And we figured that in that tri-village of Golden Grove, Nabaklis, and Haslington, about 500 people are directly affected negatively by the low wages of teachers. It means that there's less money circulating in Golden Grove, Nabaklis, and Haslington than in another community. So they're not only damaging teachers individually, they're damaging the communities that the teachers come from. They're damaging their families. That teacher is not going to be able to cut his son hair every 2 weeks. She's now got to do it once a month because that's what she can afford. It means a barber in Golden Grove, Nabaklis, and Haslington is not going to get the kind of income that a barber in another village, another area, where people can send their children to cut their hair once a week or every 2 weeks. That barber has to suffice. With the teacher children, they're cutting their hair once a month. The money is not circulating. And so it is for Golden Grove and its environs, Nabaklis, Haslington, so it is in the Denhamstel, so it is in Buxton, so it is in Pleasance and BV and Queenstown and their Sequibbo and Sisters and Baggerstown on the east, on the West Bank. So it is on West Bobbies, so it is on the Quarantine. They're killing the hell out of black people. Economic death. My brother Lincoln Lewis coined the term economic genocide and applied it to Guyana. And I'm putting a derivative to it, economic death. You're killing the teachers economically. You're killing them economically. You're forcing them to have to leave school in the afternoon and go home and give lessons. When they're done, they can't have their own children with lessons. They can't cook their own children dinner. They go to sleep exhausted. You're killing our people economically. We got to do something about it. And we can only fight with what we have. We can only fight with what we have. We can't fight with what we don't have. We can't fight with what we don't have. We can only fight with what we have. And what we have are our bodies. We don't have the guns of the state. We don't have the money that the state is commandeering, our money. What we have is our body and the soul that is inherent in that body. We've got to fight. I know we have some controversy over how that fight should take place, whether it should be on the streets or whether it should be otherwise. I don't want to get into those polemics, because those polemics could divide us even further. Yes, Ansgrove too. I always forget Ansgrove, a place that is near and dear to my heart. I don't forget you all, Ansgrove. I don't want to get into a fight over what form the protest should take. But I'm saying protest we must. Granger got it right. Silence is not an option. It is not an option. And I think we can work these little disagreements that we have. We are in the age of social media, and so our leaders are called upon to speak more often than they would normally speak. And as politicians, we tend to speak, That's why I don't like being called a politician, a political activist. Because you see, a politician has to worry by where the money can come from, where the vote can come from. And if I said this, I'm going to be alienating 50 votes over there. So sometimes you end up offending 50,000 so as not to offend 50. Politicians are caught in that mess. I am free from that. I am free from that. But I appreciate that my politician brothers and sisters find themselves in that mess, and they end up trying to speak to everybody, and they end up speaking to nobody. In trying to speak to everybody with one mouth, they end up speaking to nobody. Yes, there are some of our citizens who would not want street protests because they feel that street protests is a threat to their business, to their feeling of security, and all of that. I understand that very well. But for the majority of the 200,000 people who voted for the coalition, street protest is all they have. It's all they have. If the teachers stayed in their homes, if they went on strike and just stay in their homes, they would not dramatize to the world the feelings that come from deep within. When they come on the streets, the press is there. The press is not going to go into the teachers, the 50,000 public servants' homes. They, 16, 17,000 teachers. The press, the media is not going to go into their homes. When they come into the open space and they demonstrate their street protests, the media comes there and the media capture their collective feelings. I am not quarreling with those who question the method of protest. But protests, there must be. My brother Takumo Gunse last night on this program said that we in the WP are prepared to go on the road, to go into the communities. And that is what we are going in to do. We are going into the communities and to do our fair of mobilizing in the communities. And we're not mobilizing just for the sake of mobilizing. We're mobilizing, and want to make it very clear, we're mobilizing for people to come onto the road. There's no secret about that. It is our legitimate and constitutional right. We are going into the communities to mobilize our people to come onto the road and to demonstrate their disapproval, but not just their disapproval, they demonstrate their capacity and intention to stop this confounded nonsense. Martin Carter says, jail me quickly, clang this illiterate iron door, if freedom writes no happier alphabet. Jail me quickly, because I'm not giving you a way out. Too much is too much. Too much is too much. Politicians must not take people to the slaughter. I agree. Politicians must not deliver their people to be slaughtered. But politicians must not allow their people to lie down and to be slaughtered. Politicians must not take their people to the road and deliver them to be slaughtered by the state police. But politicians also must not allow their people to lie down armless and be slaughtered economically, politically, physically, and otherwise. We are not on the road. We were not on the road when Orrin Boston was shot in his sleep. We were not on the road when Quinton Bacchus was shot. That beautiful young boy left a beautiful child, a young, relatively young mother and father to have to go without their child. We were not on the road creating trouble. We were not on the road creating trouble when they killed Peter Headley. We were not on the road creating trouble when they bulldozed the homes of those poor, mainly women in Mocha, Arcadia. So they're murdering us, even when we are not on the road. Lord Kitchener, in one of the Calypso speeches, he said, the road make the walk on Carnival Day. The road make the protest. Any steel band man venture to cross my path is a long funeral to the Royal Hospital. That's what the Calypsonian says. The road make to walk on Carnival Day. The road make to protest when oppression is too much. The road make to come and protest when government is our days. Constable, I don't want to cause trouble, but I have to say that any infiltrator cross my path. Lord Kitchener said, is a long funeral to the Royal Hospital. Wisdom of the Calypsonian, the poets, the musical poets. The road make to walk on Carnival Day. The road make to protest when oppressors are joking up the eye. The Henry boys. I forget them sometimes. It's been so long, and I shouldn't. The Henry boys. I forget them sometimes. It's so much, more than we can take. More than we can take. Dr. Adams had some difficulty tonight in getting on. And I didn't plan to have this kind of talk tonight. I wanted to talk to Dr. Adams. But Dr. Adams couldn't get on. He was on and off. And so I took the opportunity to address you tonight respectfully and to sound the bell. To sound the bell. To all who want to listen, all who want to hear, that we're not taking this line down anymore. We're not taking this line down anymore. We are human beings too. And on this 58th anniversary of our independence, we pledge to be true. We pledge to be true to the dreams of our independence. The dream to be a free people. A free people, all of us. All of us. Hey, Lawrence and Dr. Hines, you get better looks in Ghana than when you're in New York. You all Guyanese know, from the time you land at the airport, your head will stop hurting you. All the worries that you get in New York and Toronto and wherever you just go. Yeah. And you do feel free because this is our country, watered by the blood of our people. At different times and in different circumstances, but our blood has watered this land. And so when you land at that airport, you're really walking, you know, our Eddie Grant said, walking in the sunshine of Guyana, walking on the blood of our ancestors. There's nothing more sacred than that. So if I'm looking good, it's because I am with my ancestors and with people who look like me, inspire me. I am the product. We are products of our environment. So Lawrence, if I'm looking young, if I'm looking good, it's because of the freedom. You know, when it's time to go back to New York and you meet at Timeri, the headache to start right away. Sometimes it starts before you meet at Timeri. There's nothing like home. There's nothing like home. There's nothing like home. And we are serious. We are serious. This home shall be a home for all of us, or it shall not be a home for any of us. This home will be a home for all of us, or it won't be a home for any of us. I've been talking a lot of Martin Carter tonight, and I end with him. His shortest poem goes like this. This I have learned. Today a speck, tomorrow a hero. Hero or monster, you are consumed. Like a jig shakes the loom. Like a web is spun the pattern. All are involved. All are consumed. The poet didn't put because all are consumed. The prose people do that. The poet said all are involved. All are consumed. If you were doing prose, you would say all are involved because all are consumed. But the poet is very miserly with the words. All are involved. All are consumed. We are all involved in this wherever we are. whether it's in Brooklyn, Queens, Toronto, Barbados, Antigua, whichever part of Guyana we are, Monkey Mountain or down the mountain, all along the coast, wherever we are, once we are Guyanese and we have that Guyanese blood running in our veins, we are all involved. Because what's happening in our country, thanks to this ruthless government, is consuming all of us. I love you all. Always. Always. There is never too much, too little love when it comes to that act of loving your compatriots, loving you, my people, our people, our people. I said the love is unconditional, not uncritical, because if you all behave bad, I'm going to say you all behaving bad. Stop it, right? So it's not uncritical, it's unconditional. Once you're Guyanese, once you're Black, once you're West Indian, I love you. It's your love that make the words of my mouth and the meditation of my heart be accepted here tonight. Here tonight. Whatever is said here tonight about independence must not deter you from creating your own new independence covenant. Say a word of prayer on Sunday. Conjure up some thoughts of a better independence. And start to sharpen your shuffling feet so that we will shuffle to the rhythm of freedom as we confront the citadels of ungodly power. Power belongs to God. And then he distributes it to the rest of us. Our power belongs to the ancestors, and they give us. What Bob Marley said? Jah will never give the power to a bald head. Jah will never give the power to a bald head. The power that the government of Guyana is exercising is the power of Lucifer. We started tonight, of course, with the sound of the man who created soca, Ras Shorty Eye. Watch out, my people. Watch out. Watch out. Lucifer coming with a bag of white powder, and he's not coming to powder your face. When the PPP comes around in our community, they come with a bag of white powder. Ras Shorty Eye was talking there about cocaine. Well, the PPP got some political cocaine that they're bringing into our communities. The white thing, not to powder our face, but to mess with our minds. All are involved. All are consumed. Those of you who are cricket lovers, we're going to be doing cricket on Sunday night. And then next week, we will resume the real hard political stuff. Love you all. Always. Always. Forever.